So welcome to our mini studio. I'm really happy to welcome you to it. And thank Ann Zanes for having put me in touch with you. I'm really happy. I want you to pass that on. I think there's a little feedback coming from the television. Probably should be turned down the volume a little. And welcome, really very, very much. Welcome to Conversation. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program Cynthia Basinet. And Cynthia is she's been a model, an actress, a recording artist, and she's also a humanitarian, and she's in from Los Angeles now where she resides, and she's in New York City because she has been one of 1,000 women who have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in a unique initiative at trying to have the Nobel Peace Prize show the honor women of many dimensions around the world. And I congratulate her on that, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the program. Welcome to New York, and here on the occasion of being one of the 1,000.
Thank you, Harold.
It's my great good pleasure. And I want to show right at the outset, if we could, she's a singer. She's very well known, perhaps particularly on the internet. She's very well known for a particular song, if I'm not mistaken, "A Santa Baby," which is sort of very widely distributed. And there is a CD that's out. It looks like this in the store. And so we want to let people know about that, and we're going to give them information where you can contact her at the end of the program. But so with that introduction, welcome very, very much to Conversations in our mini studio.
Thank you.
So Cynthia, we have 58 minutes, and you've had a very interesting life, and we do try to anchor this on the guest. And I'm wondering, maybe you could, please, is the template we use, could you share your own background, please, where you're born and raised, that sort of thing. And then we'll talk about the many aspects of your life. Particularly, we want to get into some of this humanitarian work that you've been doing that caused you, it seems to me, to be nominated in this unique way. But could you share your own background, please?
Sure. I guess you'd say I'm the original Valley girl. I was
Valley
born
girl.
in the Valley near Los Angeles. Raised in Silicon Valley. So
Two Valley girl.
So
yeah.
Grew up around computers. That being a huge backbone, I think. Perhaps maybe the way Apple Computer ran their company, and just everyone I was around were all entrepreneurs developing a product in their garage, and
So you were born in the Los Angeles area, but raised in Northern California,
correct,
in Silicon Valley. I see, yeah. And your dad was somewhat associated, I guess, with that, but you were okay. It's interesting.
Yeah, and my father was a union man, set type for Sunset Magazine. I don't know if you get that here in New York.
I don't know it. I don't think so. Sunset Strip or
Sunset Magazine, and it's kind of was the epitome of West Coast living and the homes and whatnot. Highlighted homes and restaurants and.
My paternal grandfather in Detroit was a union organizer, turn of the century, but he was then it was the lithographers union, which was sort of like that. And it was like a guild, and they didn't really have unions back at the turn of the century. They were guilds sort of before the industrial unions came in. But you're from a union family then, right?
Yeah. I mean, I watched my father walk the picket line and go without, and see that struggle. And then obviously as an actress, Los Angeles has had a couple of strikes. More recently.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But you raised until did you like go to high school up in Silicon Valley, and that you were raised until a young woman there, then, right?
Yeah, and then I got married, had a son, and went to Europe as a model. I mean, I had been a model, and then took my son and moved to Paris for pretty much 5 years.
You went to high school and got through high school in Silicon Valley, and did you go on to college at all? Did you study some? What were you studying in college?
Sociology and business administration.
Okay, that's an interesting combination. It could be very helpful to society.
Yeah,
sociology is an interesting field. Did you take your degree in college or not?
AA, yeah. Yeah.
You took a BA?
AA.
AA, what is that?
Associate's degree.
Oh, an associate degree. I see, right. Okay, very good. And then you went to Europe, did you say?
Right.
How did that happen, if I may? You became a model early on then, right? Okay.
I had been a model, and Bob Mackie discovered me.
Bob Mackie is the designer?
Yeah, he used to do all Cher's clothes, very beaded, very extravagant. And I had been working as a house model in I. Magnin in San Francisco, which was a very, a smaller Saks Fifth Avenue.
iMagnet is a store?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before Macy's bought it out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know very much about fashion at all.
No.
But it's an interesting world, and style and design. A lot of it, design and art. It's an art.
Yeah.
It's an art. Yeah, right.
Well, it allowed the ability to kind of travel and see the rest of the world.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And when did you decide that you could go into modeling? That's a pretty glamorous profession.
What are you saying?
I think it's pretty. It is. I should think there are a lot of people who would like to be models. It is. No. And when did you decide or discover that you were have the qualities to be a fashion model?
It started young. I was tall, and I started like that as a house model at iMagnet, which was like a regular. I don't know if people still do it, but they used to have ladies who lunch, and you came in and wore the clothes and modeled in the store. And then, like I said, Bob Mackey discovered me, and then an agency in San Francisco picked me up. And by then I had a small child, and thought, what the heck? And I took my son and I went to Europe for 5 years.
That's a long time.
Well, I came back in the summer.
Yeah, I see, right. But going to Europe, going to France, I understand you spent quite a bit of time in France. What is it prompted you to go to France? I don't mean to...
Well, number one, it set the precedence that my ex-husband had left the state already, so then I could basically go wherever I wanted. And the other issue is my family is French. So
I see. I see Basinet. Yeah. So they had a French background.
Sure.
Not to the point where you spoke French in the home.
No. No.
But did you have a smatter?
I did have Dijon mustard growing up.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a good beginning, Dijon mustard. Yeah, that's pretty good. And Alexandre Dumas, that kind of thing. But you lived in France for quite a while. Did you pick up the language pretty well and the culture, and you enjoy that time in France?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you were modeling then, right?
And my son went to French school, and so he actually is the one that taught me French.
Oh, really?
So in the very beginning, I spoke like I was a baby.
Yeah.
Until you realize that words like gouvernement and all these words translate.
Yeah.
But in the very beginning, I sound like a little nursery school kid.
Well, the children shall lead us. This is somewhere in the good book, I think. Yeah. And you were there for 5 years. And you continued that modeling for quite a while. And did you model back here in the States when you came back?
Yeah. And when I lived there, I modeled in London, Milan, Madrid. Did the circuit, and had, I could fly and come back.
Does the modeling follow a season? Like you have a season? We just had a thing here in New York, and forgive me because I'm really not very familiar, but they had a thing called something on 7th Avenue, the fashion season. It was the autumn. Is there a season when the new designs come out and the modeling career or the modeling enterprise or whatever is in, and then there's times when it's slower and that kind of thing? Is there a seasonal thing to modeling and the introduction of new fashion design and so forth?
Sure. I mean, someone for me, I was a redhead, so obviously when they shoot fall clothes, which is earlier on in the summer or whatnot, or even a little bit before, that is going to be a busy season for me. Girls that are more swimsuit, they shot at different times, but also typically they book you in one city 1 week and you're somewhere else 2 days later, so it does have a little bit of a flow.
Seasonality to it. Yeah, right. I hadn't know. I'm just asking. I don't know. And back again to that. Back to that unionization, that thing, and that. Was there a political contact? Were you politically involved? You're a humanitarian. You've been doing very important work in terms of trying to help the human condition. Has that been part of your life, or did you pick that up a little later, or did it come out of your family background, or what do you think you're concerned with trying to improve the human condition and so forth?
Well, I grew up in a democratic household.
It's a good beginning, some people would say, yes.
And definitely spoke a lot about politics and just life, and my oldest brother's mentally challenged, so I think anytime you have that dynamic in the family... Makes you sensitive, doesn't it? Number one. Number two, I think it encourages all the other members of the family to become a voice for anyone who doesn't have one. And good for you, right. It starts pretty early on. I remember probably as early as 6 or 7 years old, standing up for other kids and paying attention to, you know, not everybody has it the way somebody else does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge, important moral and ethical lesson for this whole planet, to get better into their consciousness, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think
definitely.
we need that, because there's, you know, there's too much of an imbalance in terms of the structure of the world. Well, good.
When you find your own power in aiding others, I mean, it gets you over your own thing. I always say sometimes I think we all are handicapped. Some just wear it on the inside and outside, and it's all what you do with your life. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that good thing, and that's been there. And then, did you follow? And forgive me, you weren't old enough, I think, perhaps, to be involved at that time of the Vietnam incursion by the United States and all of the activity, Bobby Dylan, Joan Baez, and all the movement that went around the arts and everything around that war. Were you too young to be very cognizant of things then, or?
You know, I didn't grow up listening to it till I got much older, but I did grow up very aware of Haight-Ashbury, very aware of the assassinations that were going on in the early 70s, and just the shift in America's heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I'm sorry, I don't know, but after
Robert Kennedy?
Yeah.
I remember it well.
I think it broke our hearts as a nation.
Wasn't it something else? Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, I'm trying to think of how old I was, but it was definitely...
well, Kennedy was in 1968. I was in California. I was teaching at Long Beach at the university there, and I remember it very well.
Wow.
It was
Yeah, because
awful.
it happened, you know, in the Ambassador Hotel.
Yeah, that's right, Ambassador Hotel. And Mr. Johnson had just announced he's not going to run for president again, and there was all that activity going on around the Vietnam thing. Do you remember well enough whether you were involved in the anti-war sentiment? There was so much a part of the dynamic of this country then? Or the free speech movement up at Berkeley and that sort of thing. And Haight-Ashbury was the center of a great deal of countercultural activity. Were you involved in the countercultural vibe, as it were?
It's interesting because, you know, I think as you're you know, proposing it now, I look at it and I go, yeah. I
You
remember
were.
the
Didn't
Indian
even know
that
it, right?
cried, was the big poster behind my parents.
With the Indian with the tear? I remember it well, on the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So all that, and plus my parents took us up to San Francisco once a month to go to museums or to do something. So I remember the first Gay Freedom Parade. I remember being in Berkeley a lot, and always very aware of activism and what's going on in the world, and not as if it was an odd thing. It was
it was just life.
Yeah, it was just life.
Right. Okay, you were so
immersed. It wasn't like you were sitting around pontificating.
That's right.
It was just...
that's right. It was just part of life, so you just immersed in it. Yeah, that's right. I guess I were. Yeah, that kind of thing. I understand what you're saying and everything. And it was an interesting time, that's for sure. So, and you've been modeling, and you still model, I guess, and that's still part of your life's experience.
Yeah, more campaigns now. But.
Yeah, and when did you get, and you've always had this sense of social concern for the disadvantaged?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had all this stuff where they've got buses now that'll take care of people that are in wheelchairs. They never used to have that.
Yeah.
There's progress been made for the disabled, and there are acts have been done, acts of Congress, and that kind of thing that have helped in that regard. But, so, and then there's all this other activity, and we still got activity rolling around in this planet now, but maybe, and you've got that consciousness. But when did you start getting the idea of doing some acting, if you could, and then the singing? Because that's a little bit different than the model. I guess they're sort of very often tied together. But
well, you know, obviously you have certain goals, and you do the modeling because it pays, and you find a child to raise and life to see. But when I came back to LA, obviously I started doing commercials, and then I was sponsored, I think, the first time to get into the union was Canadian Molson Beer.
Okay.
So I think it's called Taft-Hartley, to get into the union.
Okay.
And that's how it started. And I started shooting commercials all the time, and then slowly started doing movies. And then started doing the music.
You got into the union, you say? That was a SAG, or
SAG, right? Yeah.
Right. And so you were okay. And then you would do